you'll give me the exact same amount of money.
Looks like 3 has found the safe.
A popular method of choice to achieve this was called psychic driving.
What if I told you there's a version of Squid Game that already happened? Not on a Netflix set, but in real life, in labs, in war zones, in everyday people's minds. And what if the most terrifying part isn't the violence, but the fact that under the same pressure, you might do the exact same thing? You think you're different, but psychology says otherwise. Welcome to 404 Mind. This is not just a show, it's a mirror. Part 1. Squid Game is closer to reality than we think. Squid Game works because it doesn't feel like science fiction. It feels like something that could happen tomorrow. Why? Because the participants aren't villains. They're people crushed by debt, trauma, and a rigged system. Just like in our world, over 300 million people globally live in extreme poverty. Suicide due to financial stress is rising, from Korea to the US. When your dignity is stripped away, survival becomes the only goal. And when survival takes over, morality becomes optional. Psychologist Abraham Maslow explained this with his hierarchy of needs. At the bottom, food, shelter, safety. At the top, ethics, purpose, self-actualization. In the game wherein in life, when the bottom collapses, the top doesn't matter. Squid Game isn't fiction. It's a simulation of what many already live, just without cameras. Part 2. Real experiments that prove we're all capable. Still think you'd behave differently? Let's test that confidence. In 1961, Stanley Milgram invited volunteers to help with memory research. They were told to deliver electric shocks to a man in another room. Each wrong answer meant a higher voltage. The shocks were fake, but the obedience, real. 65% of people went all the way to what they thought was a fatal dose, simply because an authority figure told them to continue. Ordinary people, not psychopaths. In 1971, the Stanford prison experiment split volunteers into guards and prisoners. Within 6 days, the guards became abusive. The prisoners broke down. The experiment was shut down. Why? Because the line between role-playing and reality blurred too fast. What does this tell us? That given power, anonymity, and stress, almost anyone can become cruel, just like in Squid Game. Part 3, the psychology of you, what you'd likely do. In the game, some players protect others. Some betray their best friends, others just freeze. Neuroscience tells us when fear hits, your amygdala, the fear center, hijacks your brain. Logical thinking shuts down. You act first, think later. So what happens when you're starving, terrified, and alone? You follow the crowd, you blame others, you rationalize cruelty. Psychologists call this diffusion of responsibility. It explains why people watch tragedies happen and do nothing. Now add mass, like in the show. When people feel anonymous, their moral compass fades. They stop seeing others as humans, just obstacles. This is how everyday people, not monsters, end up doing unspeakable things and still sleep at night. Squid Game is just a show, but the behaviors it reveals, those are real. They've been tested, measured, documented. So next time you watch someone betray a friend to survive, don't just say, "I'd never do that." Ask instead, what would it take for me to break? Because the scariest part of Squid Game isn't the violence, it's the possibility that under the right pressure, you might win. Not because you were brave, but because you became exactly who the game needed you to be. Welcome to the human mind. This was 404 Mind. Stay curious, stay awake.